All right, everybody. My name is Guy Meyer. I am here with the show. I was going to say I'm one with the ecological. Um, are you okay? Is it okay to say anxiety of the times?
Ecological anxiety of the
Oh
times is
God, that's
actually good.
horrible.
No, I kind of like
What
that.
a horrible thought.
I am one with the ecological anxiety of the times.
Oh God.
No, I don't
I'm
think
just
that's a
getting
bad thing.
I shouldn't be.
Times.
Oh God.
No, I don't
I'm
think
just
that's a bad thing.
I shouldn't be afraid of acknowledging that kind of thing. Well, I think that
I would be afraid of ecological anxiety, but I don't know that you need to be worried about acknowledging it.
It's because I'm sitting on my wallet. Now I feel more relaxed. And I probably should take my shoes off as well. It's funny how, it brings up here my purpose here, and this show is probably going to be somewhat like some of Guy's other shows, but maybe a little different.
Okay.
You know, it might have elements.
Always interesting.
You may not have seen
interesting.
all
Well,
of my
that's true.
shows.
I perhaps have not seen all of them.
I've not seen too many. But, so, wow. The whole spin as the global issues of our time
They're heavy.
is so so intriguing and challenging and kind of in this age of just harsh polarity and where do we go from here and Trump and Greta and
Right.
and
two opposite sides of the spectrum, aren't they?
and like where are we and so I guess somebody suggested to me that I should start the show with data.
Okay.
And I was going to ask you, but I didn't really get around to it, to bring some data in too. What data?
I know that I have a lot of
and data
numbers
and
specifically
data,
at my
data
fingertips.
might. I mean, it's an interesting. All right, so here's the data.
All right.
And it's
What
not.
did you bring?
It's not pretty data. It's weird data, but it's like, it's interesting, I guess. And it's. I kind of wondered about this. I still haven't got the answer completely, and it might not really mean anything exactly, but it's just the state of this beautiful planet, the existential state of this planet, and the beauty and the power and little children and life in general makes me think, and I think many of us think, like, what the heck can we do? Maybe even a little more. How do we really engage? Because I feel like we're not fully engaging at all.
Everyone is just skimming along the surface
Skimming
in
along the
such a way, and the realization that recycling isn't really working.
Just a sham almost at this point?
Just a sham. I feel like we finally taught everyone how to recycle, and it's become second nature for even people like, parents and aunts and uncles to sort their garbage and recycle. And then we find out that most of the things that you're recycling are not even being recycled. They're just ending up in dumps in aggregate, which in some ways is even worse.
It's a and in fact, I mean, I've been cynical for a long time about just the fact that it seemed like that was going to be the best that humans were ever going to be able to deal with. Well,
I didn't honestly know we'd ever get there.
We recycle.
Right.
And it just, I kind of felt like there might have been a little more, even beyond recycling, that we could feel like our gears were engaged in.
Yep.
So here, I think that's what we're grasping for. We're looking for either the leadership or the like where is and we talked about this last summer, like where do you get on? All right, so here's my data.
Okay, bring on the data.
It's grim. 93 million barrels. That's how much oil is pumped out of the earth a day.
Wow.
55 gallons per barrel.
Wow.
93 million.
Million barrels a day.
A day.
How is there that much oil in the world?
On average in 2015, according to the International
Oh my God, it's probably
Energy
gone up since then.
Agency. Huh?
It's probably gone up since then.
It may
That's
have.
outrageous.
It's unbelievable. And
It's
it
a
makes me think, it's
stupefying
like I
number.
want to get like, because I can't picture my, acreage square foot,
Right.
what does that, how do I visualize that?
Right, so it's 55 gallons in a barrel.
In a
You
barrel.
said, right? So you picture a gallon of milk. Right, there are 55 gallons of milk in a barrel. Like you go into the grocery store, there are probably not 55 gallons of milk in that entire fridge. Right, there are probably 12. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
And-
you
yeah,
picture that number.
I know.
And so you need 55 of them to make one of these, and 93 million of
A
those
Day.
are pumped a day.
A day.
That is nauseating. Really? What is that, like crude oil just out of the ground?
Well, it says it's just a simple 2-line thing that I Googled, and they give you this thing, and I don't.
Okay.
It says the total worldwide oil consumption was 93 million.
That was consumption.
Consumption.
Consumption. I'm sorry. I was
okay.
thinking that was what was being
All right,
pumped
all right.
out
Then
of
that
the
is
ground.
different, and that is
Okay.
different. But that signifies
But, I mean, you
this
have to have
almost
that
the
much.
same thing
It
in a
does.
way.
It
I mean,
does.
you can't get too much beyond.
Right. Right. And that's worse. In some ways, that's worse. So
Well,
that
because of what it
much-
signifies also
Again,
is
your gallon of milk times 55 times 93 million is how much fossil fuel we're using every single day
and.
around
I
the
mean,
world.
I said this to a friend today, and he said, well, it all depends on how you look at it, because there are many different uses for oil, and not all of it gets burned.
What else are we doing with it?
It's kind of my
Lubricating
thoughts.
machinery?
Okay, we make
Maybe.
plastic from it,
We do make plastic from it.
but that's not
true.
necessarily good either.
No, no. I think that's true.
Anyways,
Well, what
I
other
think
stats do you have in there that are going to astonish me?
I don't know if I really want to get to too
Right.
much more, but I thought,
That's an
if I
astonishing
had
number.
found this number 30 years ago, and it wouldn't have been 93 million barrels per day 30 years ago.
No.
It might have been only 40 million barrels per
Right.
day. But I still would have, at 40 million barrels per day in 1982 or 3, gone, Jesus, bleeping, what are we
Right?
doing?
What are we
Isn't
doing?
it obvious this is
Well, and
something
it may have been leaded back then. When did they get rid of leaded gasoline?
around, I think, through the
70, I think late
1970s or
70s. Yeah, I think so.
whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But God, all right, so
That's a
because I
staggering
feel
number.
like we really need like you talked about, skimming,
Yeah.
like we're just I'm just an ordinary American doing the
Right.
best I can, I
Right.
got to commute my 10 or
Gotta
20 or
commute
30.
my
We're going to
yep.
vacation here. Oh, let's
Gotta
go to the
fly.
beach. Got to fly
Yep.
2 or 3
Gotta
times
take my
a year.
annual vacation. Yep.
All of this stuff.
Exactly. It's
And-
interesting in other cultures in other countries. My cousin lives in Sweden, and she says there's a tremendous amount of flight shaming there. She had
Oh,
a word For it.
really?
There's a word in
So-
Swedish for it,
Oh.
and it was the shaming that happens when you use resources. And there's drive shaming, there's flight shaming.
Oh.
I can't remember what she said the other kinds of shaming were. Probably plastic use shaming
Oh,
and
wow.
straw shaming and all the rest of
Wow.
it. But there is an awareness, certainly in places other than the United States, that flying is a major consumption of carbon, that flying is a major commitment of resources for the planet.
Well, I
And-
have. I'm both encouraged, but I don't like to hear that word
Right.
shaming,
Shaming
because
is
I
not
think
good.
it's kind of a shame that we
Right.
are shame people
Yeah.
or point fingers and get into that whole element.
Right.
But I'm.
But it demonstrates awareness.
Yes, I mean
Right.
I'm gratified that maybe they have a deeper knowledge than perhaps we do.
Right. I think we very much ignore the things that we don't really want to see.
That skimming brings up this little phrase I found in a book, King Arthur and his Knights, and fantastic read by John Steinbeck of all people.
Oh,
I'm going to do a show on literature one of these days.
I'll join you.
Love it so much.
Yes.
Oh my God. So Guinevere and Arthur are having a hard time. The kingdoms, they've wiped out all their enemies, and how do they keep their knights,
Right.
sword sharp, and they're engaged, and it basically the whole kingdom feels like it's what they call idle. Everybody's, but of course they're not really idle, or they'd be all starved. But yet they're not engaged in some mission.
Right. There's no. Doesn't feel like
they don't have a sense
progress.
of. And I'm thinking, well, that's kind of like us.
Kind of where we are.
Even though we're all
it's a
busy
really good
as
point.
heck, everything,
Yes.
struggling to do our thing.
Yes.
But there's sort of like are we just really kind of almost like
Right.
not really engaged in anything
What are we
fundamentally
striving for?
I know. What are we doing?
Yeah.
It just seems
Oh, it's
like
interesting.
it seems like it's just
Here's the thing, though, is I think that people our age
Mm.
are more idle than the younger generation. I had dinner with some young kids. They're probably in their 20s when we were just in London, and they have gone vegan, not out of because they care about animals, but they went vegan specifically because of the damage on the part of the meat products to the planet. They have gone as plastic free as they possibly can be. They don't drive. They are actively, and all of their friends are doing the same thing. And these were 20-year-olds in London, all aggressively downsizing their environmental footprint. And I think it was a bit of a shock to us that we were like, oh, I'm not doing that. Like I gave up plastic straws. Does that count? Right? Like I bring my own water bottle now. Is that good? And it was a bit of a shock, and I kind of sat there and looked, and I was like, wow, that's a lot of pressure to take on yourself. Right? Like you could tell they had this like, wow, this is our planet and no one else is going to do it. We need to do it. And it was also just, I
this was
got
London?
that since it was in London. Yeah. And Mark is Irish and his girlfriend is, I'm not sure what she is. She's English and something else. So, they're going to be multicultural and they're going to be, well informed, and they're going to be, kids that have traveled the world. I mean, there's a lot of knowledge there that may not be consistent across the board with young people, but it was interesting and made me realize again that I skim across the surface of these things, and I do consider myself to be an environmentalist, but giving up straws is not enough.
I didn't do a proper introduction,
Oh, we
which
should do an
I
introduction.
never do. It's like a continual absent-minded professor every time I start the show. So I'm here with Alison Hermance. Am I saying your last name correctly, Alison? And Alison has been a guest on my show before, and it was great to have you before. And you are officially the communications director
I am.
of the Wildcare Center in San Rafael, which is a fabulous little enterprise of animal rescue. Tell me a little. Give us a little sense of what the Wildcare does.
Sure. Yeah, Wildcare is an amazing organization. I've actually worked at Wildcare for 17 years, which is an astonishing thing.
Wow.
And the reason I have worked there so long and the reason I'm still there is because I believe so strongly in the work that we do. So we have a wildlife hospital. We take care of injured and orphaned animals, as many as 4,000 a year. So that's a lot of squirrels and opossums and raccoons and songbirds and hawks and owls. So those animals coming in injured, ill, orphaned, treat them with the goal of releasing them back to the wild. And then we have an incredibly robust suite of education programs, environmental education programs. We're one of the leaders in environmental education. And our programs in Marin are based on the teachings of Elizabeth Terwilliger, whom many people know in your audience.
The name is very familiar in
Yeah,
Marin
Mrs.
County, though
T,
I'm not.
She went by Mrs. T, and she was one of the first people that really realized that kids were going to get super excited about learning about nature and protecting nature if they had the chance to go out into nature. So she was one of the first people to really take kids on field trips, on hikes, and out to the beach and through the redwood forest. And so Wildcare's education programs follow her same teaching ideas with this sense of really getting children involved. She always had a saying, teach children to love nature, people take care of what they love. And I love that. Wildcare's education programs really work on both the knowledge
that is perfect.
And also the love that makes you a real advocate for wildlife. And so that's the other thing we do as an organization is advocate for wildlife. We do a tremendous amount of that through outreach, research, public presentations. We do a lot of legislative advocacy, that sort of thing. So Wildcare is really working on the forefront of helping people and animals integrate harmoniously. It's like where that boundary is, where people and animals come into contact with each other. And Wildcare, all of our programs work together to help you navigate that boundary. And it really, really does work. And I joke about myself skimming across the surface of the environmental movement, but I do feel like the work we do at Wildcare changes hearts and minds in a way that has to make a difference.
That's so powerful.
Right?
So potent.
Yeah.
It's exactly where you got to go. Just
that's it.
Children.
And you
find them, get the kids out.
That inspires you. You find the thing that makes you see me light up when I talk about Wildcare. I talk about helping animals. I talk about teaching children. I talk about advocating for habitat and the environment and for animals themselves. And I light up with that. And you need to find the thing that makes you light up. And that is how you change, again, hearts and minds and make a difference, I guess.
I think. I can't imagine anything else. I mean, it's potent. And the wild part, you know.
Right.
I mean, the wild is moving beyond your world of, you know, the pavement, the controlled little environment that us human beings have created for ourselves, this little womb of civilization.
But here's what's interesting is that most of the patients that we treat at Wildcare are urban and suburban animals. Right? So it's not like the wild is something that is separate.
No.
And I think that's a good thing. Right? Like there are raccoons that are eating the rats and mice in your neighborhood. There are skunks that are waddling through your yard eating slugs and snails and crickets. Right? That's what they do. That they wander through your yard eating the things that you, and rats and mice also. Skunks are great at taking care of rats and mice. So they're wandering through your yard. They're interacting with us. They're finding ways to live with us, just as we can find ways to live with them. You can have a healthy, wild ecosystem just in your backyard. You can help plants. You can help trees. Also plants, I do know that. But you can help small plants. You can help trees. And you can help animals just in your backyard. You don't have to rescue the cheetahs. You don't have to, you know, do something major just by planting native plants, by not using pesticides, by not using rodenticides, by not using rat poisons. Just those things can create a habitat for the animals that share their lives with us. And I think that's a good thing.
I think
it's a powerful thing. This idea of sharing that space that you were just talking about that made you go blah, right?
Exactly. I wasn't talking about the wild stuff when I said blah, but you're
about
right.
Our little human world.
And yet, you see, within that human world, this wildlife still is able to find their little niches of places to survive.
Yeah. Have you seen the robins are migrating right now? It's February, mid-February.
Yeah, springtime in California.
Springtime in California, yes, which is crazy. I love that. But if you go outside and you look in your trees, and you will have a dozen robins migrating through Marin County right now. And it's so amazing to have these little birds. And they're passing through. You know, they're on their way. They're heading south. They're heading north. Actually, they're heading
I was
back
wondering.
north. Yeah,
They're heading up to
thank you.
Alaska,
They're
right?
heading back up to Alaska. I'm not even sure
wherever
where
they
the
go.
robins go. I have to look up where the robins
They
go.
go
I'm not even
everywhere,
sure how
I
far
think.
they go.
I think they go everywhere.
They do, but it's such an interesting thing, and that reality of a wild bird migration is right outside my window every single morning. I have a pyracantha bush out in front of my window, and I make a specific point every fall to not prune the branches that have flowers on them, because those flowers turn into the berries that then feed my robins when they come through in the middle of February.
And cedar waxwings. Do you ever get a flock of cedar
Oh,
waxwings?
aren't they wonderful? That little noise that they make when they fly.
Well,
They're
and they
so beautiful.
something I've had lived in a place where I had one of those pyrocanthus bushes too. I think it was, or the little red berries that past a certain stage become like a magnet for these birds.
Yes.
And this flock of cedar waxwings, they were just like coating the thing.
Love them.
Maybe they were starting to ferment or something. I'm not
I've
sure.
heard that. I've heard that they will sometimes go for them. I've noticed the ones on the bush outside my window that they like the ones that are really far gone. They'll wait for those to get really, really ripe, and I don't know if it's because they're fermented or because they're just particularly sweet and delicious. But
well, I think getting back to the
humans.
No, this is engaging a vision and believing in life and the generations as they come, and doing our best to provide some kind of exposure to nature, opportunity to get their heart
learn to love and appreciate, right?
Yeah, I mean, the younger generation has their own. I think they have their own inner compass pointing in the right direction.
There's no
almost out of the
ambiguity in
gate.
their minds.
You know, I mean, I want to, but
generalize,
I mean, little kids, I don't know. But anyway, so I'm speaking very positively because I really want, like you really want, we want this whole thing to be some marvelous miracle of how the planet emerged from this.
I want the era that you and I have lived through. I want this to be the nadir. I want this to be the low point.
Right.
And from here, it's only up. It's only up to cleaner air. It's only up to cleaner energy. It's only up to, I don't know, smaller population.
You do know.
Right?
You do know. And it's happening.
Yeah.
If you're reading the newspapers, I mean, I have a clipping
Birth
in my
rates
little
are dropping,
book
aren't they?
in California and in the USA and in many of the developed countries. But the undeveloped countries, they're willing, they'd be very happy to follow our lead. That's a whole other subject.
That is a whole other
know,
issue.
but
Whether the
Greta
lead that
gets
we're
into
leading
it.
is the lead that
But
should be led.
Absolutely. We have to see that there's an awful lot of, I think, brilliant potential to emerge in a marvelous way.
Right.
We could, I mean, when I see the fact that the birth rates are dropping astonishingly, it might just be the beginning of a complete
You never know.
human collapse.
Could happen, according to all the novels it is.
Or it might not. It might just simply be bringing it down to a level a sustainable level that, number one, is going to get really annoying to Wall Street, who always wants things to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Right.
To think that we could even sustain an economy, quote, where the population is shrinking.
Yeah, it's an interesting question.
I mean, I believe it's possible. I don't see, I think we define so much by just because things are, that we don't know that they can't be a different way, that they can't just find this other way of evolution.
Well, I find it fascinating that the only indicator of success is continued growth, because that's just not true. Right? And it's just not possible. And I don't know, I'm not an economist, so I don't know what the models are that do not forecast sort of endless burgeoning growth.
There aren't that many around,
there
I
aren't that
think,
many
but maybe they
models.
are still there.
But maybe
you
they
would
exist,
think.
right?
You would
like,
think.
I mean, and I think that's
Schumacher
what needs to
and,
happen.
you know.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that's what needs to happen is this concept of success that does not involve an ongoing depredation of resources, right? Not ongoing endless growth to the deficit of everything else. And I don't know if that exists. I mean, that would be a question. Get an economist on here and be like, okay.
Well, I actually want to get
is there
economists
a model for success that does not involve perpetual growth?
And if there's not, then just
how do we make one?
And not even how, but let's watch us make one.
Yeah.
Let's watch the younger generation. Let's watch it happen, because I really think that it's if I can find my optimistic core, when I look at like Cash the woodpecker,
right, who is
storing
one of the
his
wildlife ambassadors at
acorns,
Wildcare,
putting little holes so he can store his acorns, so that a bug will lay it.
Yep.
I mean, the brilliance
Bug
of the
will hatch out.
technology
Yep.
of this woodpecker.
Yeah.
Or I was observing a squirrel. Okay, a squirrel in Fairfax.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody had a little kiwi bush.
Oh.
And a squirrel found a kiwi, and I took it back up to its
high-value
branch,
tree.
and I was taking pictures of the squirrel eating the kiwi. And it wasn't until I got home and started, enlarging the pictures to see that he had completely peeled the kiwi fruit before he ate it.
Oh, hilarious!
And I thought that was so.
I kind of like the skin of the kiwi. I think it's nice.
I do
it's
too.
sour
I
and
always
delicious.
eat it.
Yeah,
I
me
was
too.
very proud of
but
myself.
Apparently
But the squirrels are smart. But they control a little bit of their environment
Sure they
just
do.
for their own happiness.
Oh, they control a tremendous amount of their environment.
Well, that's what almost every species does. And human beings,
yes,
we could do it too,
well,
I think,
do
without destroying
that is
the rest of the environment.
That
I feel like
the thing.
it's like an open door for us.
Should be
Let's
possible.
get going, And it means, I think it means, finding happiness with more simplicity, probably.
Right.
And if the population was to start decreasing, which greatly alarms your managers of Wall Street and other people, what would that do to housing? And suddenly it would be like, well, guess what? We don't really have quite that housing crisis that we thought.
Right.
Maybe people,
we have
homes,
Right.
Your average kid could grow up and simply, maybe, if he's a good member of the community, have a nice home.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just going carried on here, carried off.
I don't know. You think about all of the material things that go with that, and all of the people needed to create those material things. Not to mention the energy to run it. All of those people, and if the population drops, do those people exist? I don't know.
And what is technology? I mean, it's there for us, just like the squirrel or the woodpecker making holes. Making these. There's not a lot of technology in peeling a kiwi fruit, but I know they do things like that also.
Yeah.
They have skills at taking the little pine nuts out of pine cones.
They do, and they also plant their seeds, and they know where to find them. They find like 2/3 of the seeds. Squirrels find like 2/3 of the seeds that they bury. If I buried 500 seeds in 2 days, you think I'd remember where I buried half of them? No.
They really do.
They do. They have tremendous memories. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I've heard they do that like in the wintertime too. They'll be able to in the
I
snow.
remember, and
they can dig down through the snow and find where they've got their stuff.
Triangulate, however they do it. They triangulate their way to know where they buried a certain
Astonishing.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that's do humans belong? Well, I think they're kind of a charming race in many ways. Experience in many ways. They're not.
We don't have to be all bad.
We're not. I mean, there's a lot of character. What else? Gosh, all right. What do you think, Alison?
I don't know.
I think positive things, really. It's very hard, though, and maybe the struggle is to try to do too much, or how do you?
Well, you have to do something.
You have to do something. You need to be engaged.
Like I think that, going back to the skimming across the surface,
right?
Just with our recycling or whatever not using straws, that is not going to save the planet, but it might save a sea turtle, right? That straw you don't use, the friends you tell that you're not using straws and they don't use straws, those are however many straws that don't end up in the landfill, that don't wash out into the ocean, that don't end up entangling sea life, right? So I think we have this, there's both that horrifying sense of nothing I do means anything, but there's also that sense of, yeah, kind of some of the little things I do make a difference. I think not using plastic bags, right? Not using single-use plastics. I have a friend who's used the same Ziploc bag for, I think she said 3 months.
Well, I mean,
right?
That's not funny. It's
and
perfectly
she
practical.
washes it, she
Of course.
dries it, it still works. She uses it for all kinds of things. And she says, you know, I think about all the dozens, if not more, of Ziploc bags that I would have, I think she carries her lunch in, I can't remember what she does with it, but all of the bags that I would have used, except I'm thinking about it, and I'm not using those. And if everyone thought about it, and I mean, 1 Ziploc bag for 3 months, I'm gonna take the challenge. I'm doing the Ziploc bag challenge, sure, see how long I can use my Ziploc bag, right? And just see, you know, how much you cannot waste.
It's, I mean, you just nailed the exact element of the next element that we're trying to feel. We want to get that, and that is that sense of power.
Right.
A little thing.
Right.
It
Can
gives
make
a
a
sense.
difference.
I mean, and maybe we don't get that sense enough.
Yeah.
You know, maybe this
Yeah.
person doesn't quite. You know, well, I'm doing my. Here's a Dickens quote.
Okay.
Okay, I just read this book. I was telling you earlier, Tale of Two Cities, Charles Dickens.
Fantastic book.
Okay. Oh, you actually have read it then?
Oh,
huh?
oh my, yes.
Oh my God! What a book!
So good.
Holy cow! So I looked for quotes I wanted to share.
Dickens surprised me as an adult how enjoyable Dickens is.
He was.
Yep.
He's totally. I'm completely with you. I
Right.
completely had a dismissive.
You read him in high school
I had
and
a
you're like,
dismissive attitude.
Yep.
Christmas Carol, whatever.
Oh, yeah, meh.
David Carp. I don't know. It just schmaltzy, sentimental stuff.
Nope.
Poor little starving kid.
So good.
Oh my God.
Anyway, carry on. Your quote.
Incense. A very little key can open a very heavy door.
Ooh.
It's a quote by Dickens.
Ooh,
I don't know where it
like
came from.
it.
I liked it.
I like it. Yeah.
I don't know, you know, because
Very
I think
little
I
key.
grind my gears wondering what is the key? What is the key?
Yeah.
Where is the key? You know,
Yeah.
but you know,
A very little key can open a very big door. It can.
and it can,
It can.
and then yeah.
Right? And I don't know, because you don't want to give everybody a pass. You don't want to say that not using straws and saving one Ziploc
No,
bag is
every
going to
little
make all the
thing
difference.
is important.
But
It's
every
valuable.
little thing does make a difference.
It does make a difference. And
I mean, the ideal is to use no Ziploc bags at all. Okay.
no, and
So we'll work
plastic.
on that.
Plastic is a
Plastic
big
is
mess.
terrible.
But we've got some around right now.
Right.
So we're not going to be a civilization that goes. We're going to just wipe. You know, plastic's going to come to an end as of. You know,
Right.
it's probably not going to quite work like that.
Right, but make a choice. I buy the aluminum can of whatever I'm drinking instead of the plastic bottle. Right?
As an
You
in-
buy the glass version of whatever you want instead of the plastic bottle. Right? I mean, just little choices
No,
like that.
exactly. And
They're
where
recyclable.
where does that opportunity to change the world most easily emanate from?
Right. Each of
When
us.
you or, and I or anybody
Yeah.
just does their little thing.
Yeah.
You know, that's the what Bernie would call your low-hanging fruit, or anybody
Right.
says, you know, reach for then do what you can do.
Do what you can do. Yeah.
And it's
And it doesn't give you license to go out and destroy the planet in other ways.
no.
But it does, yeah, I think it has to help. And it's awareness. And it's change. And recycling may not be as effective as we thought it was going to be, but it has still changed how we look at what we throw away.
It should be.
And that is a good thing. One thing I love that we do at Wildcare in the summer camps that we have for kids, summer and spring camps, and the kids will bring their lunches on the first day because you have camp all day, and you will go through the lunches, and the camp teacher will keep a tab of how many things were single-use plastic, how many things were reusable, how many things were recyclable, and you'll have a little chart. And then on a Monday, it's almost all it's almost all single-use plastic, right? That's what your Lunchables, your whatever, your plastic bag with your carrots in it or whatever. And then there's a very gentle sort of, so there are things you can do to make this column be less and make the reusable column be much, much more. And by Friday, all of those points have moved into the reusable column. And over the course of that week, and it's the parents, it's not the kids, but it's the kid coming home and saying, hey Mom, I'm not supposed to have just a one-time use plastic bag. Do we have any other options? And Mom can find options. And very often she does. Maybe you don't even need a plastic bag. Maybe you wash your carrot when you get to school,
I got to talk to some more of my council member friends about this single-use plastic thing.
Yeah,
because
it's a big deal.
Tell me again, when I go into the supermarket where I still work for a little while longer.
Yes.
A single-use bag is your produce bag, right?
Right. I don't use produce bags. I haven't used produce bags for a decade. I have an apple or 3 apples. I'm going to wash them before I eat them. Why do I need to stick them in plastic? Even lettuce. Yeah, it's wet. You put it on the conveyor belt so it gets, a little bit wet. If people are like, oh, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I'm going to wash my lettuce as soon as I get it home anyway.
Really?
Whatever gunge it gets on the right?
Okay.
Whatever gunge it gets on the conveyor belt or in the seat of my car, I'm going to rinse it.
But you don't want your paper bag to fall apart.
We don't take a paper bag either.
Okay.
I use a recyclable or a reusable jute
really?
bag.
Oh, really?
I do.
Wow.
I do.
I had no idea you could do that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic.
You don't need the plastic bags in the produce department.
Now, all right, so, and those are what they call single-use bags?
That would be totally single-use, right? You might be able to get a second use out of that, to use it for cat litter or something, I don't know.
Right, almost like a Ziploc bag. You're not probably going to get 3 months out of it.
No.
But you might get...
No, yeah, that plastic is super, super thin.
But on the other hand, I've also seen tests where they put that plastic in ocean water and tie it to a thing.
15 years. I know, right?
So,
yeah, it's not useful very long. That's the thing. So here's the thing about those things.
Yeah.
Not useful for more than one use.
Right.
But it perpetuates the environment.
All right. So what about all the little things that are sealed in plastic?
Yeah.
Everything like, like a battery, and now all this organic food comes in a little plastic container.
I know.
That's single-use plastic too, right? That's not being used again.
That is exactly it. You buy your organic peppers in a plastic little clamshell thing. That is single-use plastic, and you are wasting it. It's used one time to get your little peppers home, right?
I think so.
Free-range produce. Buy produce that's not wrapped in plastic, that it's not already contained for you.
Yeah. Now, I got to get back to my council members again, as I was saying a minute ago, because I was told that there is a new single-use plastic ban in the little town of San Anselmo as of January 1st. Oh. And I asked the councilman, well, what
does that involve?
What is exactly, when you say single-use, what do you think it means? And I didn't get too far with that answer, and I'm not sure he even knew. And I'm not sure, now I have to investigate this,
I'd be curious.
This rule or law, because certainly nobody's come into the fabulous quote. Well, I shouldn't say.
You shouldn't say.
I could say it. But the supermarket where I work, the community market, with its corporate tentacles. No, stop, guy. It's okay.
Get out while you can.
Oh, okay. No, it's all beautiful people doing wonderful things. But yeah, so nobody's come in and said, well, listen, folks, we now. So, anyways, that is interesting. I'm going to do a little investigating there.
I would be curious what that new regulation is. Yeah, exactly. But we can all make changes like that. I know. Right?
Just a little bit of push. It's a little give and take. And people say, oh, it's not about lifestyle choices. It's about how do we overthrow the...
Yes, it is about that. But it's also about lifestyle choices. They can't hurt.
Everything is a little bit of a give and a little bit of a take.
Yeah.
The less that the government is required to outlaw or make you do things to the environment, the better we all are. If we do it ourselves, it doesn't. You don't have to wait a year and a half for the $1 trillion bill to start making a difference.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. make
You
those
know what? We
choices
had a
on your
really
own.
good conversation here.
It's always such a
I'm
pleasure, my
I
friend.
feel like we got to wrap this up.
I agree.
Because I'm kind of wrapped up in it anyways. Alison, pleasure. I'm looking forward to your next visit.
Absolutely.
I mean,
I'll be back.
You're a power. You are a good power for the fabulous green movement that has always been here and is just
always been here.
Just kind of
Just
taking
needs
its
a boost.
lazy
and that's
time
what you're
to
doing
start.
with California Times. I love that.
Oh, God bless.
You're making a difference.
No, I'm just.
Spreading the good word.
We're all doing our thing, kind of. Trying.
Yes, we are.
All right. Well, have a happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Okay.
Such a wasteful holiday. Oh my God, plastic,
Oh.
single use.
Oh, I hate the
Awful.
balloons.
Awful.
All these hideous
No
balloons in the
balloons.
supermarket.
Ugh,
Happy
awful.
Valentine's Day. Happy
no, it's
birthday.
horrible. It's horrible.
It is.
Although I have
Blah.
an aluminum birthday balloon
Oh no.
that someone gave me for my 40th birthday in 2015.
No, you're not.
I am.
Didn't.
And
That couldn't be.
Yep. And no, it must have been before 2015. When was my 40th? Anyway, and it's still full of air. It's like the aluminum ones last longer. Don't get the latex ones. Don't get balloons at all. Balloons are terrible.
God.
Yeah. Awful.
We got a lot of work.
Oh,
Matter
my
of fact,
God.
it might just be hopeless.
It's so
but
painful. I know.